Hello and good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar on how nano influencers can generate more business for you. My name is Kazi. I am an intern with Brand Now Asia, and I will be your moderator for this afternoon. During this webinar, we will be discussing the impact influencer marketing can have on your business, how nano influencers are defined, BrandFace, the P2P platform that is, and some of the best practices when engaging in influencer marketing. We will be exploring these topics through presentations by our panelists, Pachari Pantumano, Managing Director of Brand Now Asia, and Pinaki Sachitamaku, CEO of BrandFace. During the presentation, the floor will be open to all our viewers for questions. Please leave your questions in the chat section, and I will queue them for our panelists during our Q&A segment toward the end. We will try to answer as many questions as possible within our given time frame. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like to request our first panelist for this afternoon, Mr. Pinaki Sachitamaku, CEO of BrandFace, which is a Thai-based P2P influencer marketing platform that intends to provide income stream to millions across the globe by enabling 18 to 26-year-olds to monetize from creating and publishing content on social media. To share his presentation. Thank you.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Kazi, for the introduction. And thank you all to everybody here today for coming on. Really appreciate it. A little bit about myself. My background is in media marketing and technology. And today I'm going to be talking a bit about BrandFace and educating you all a little bit more about nano influencers. And we'll have a Q&A session later on. So feel free to ask Kazi, our moderator, any questions that you may have. But before further ado, I'm going to get started with my presentation. Kazi, I'm actually having a little issue sharing this screen at the moment.
I'll look into it. Sorry about that.
Can I send you our presentation?
Yes, that'll work. Apologies, everyone. Sorry for the inconvenience. We will be starting momentarily.
All right, so just want to confirm that everyone can see the screen at the moment. Can you just, yeah, thumbs up. All right, so so I want to share about BrandFace and what we're up to at BrandFace. So BrandFace is Thailand's first peer-to-peer marketing platform, and our focus is crowd marketing via nano influencers. All right, next slide. So there's been a huge change in consumer behavior lately. And the reason for this is because influencers have been triggering consumers and getting people to think about various products. So there's so many ads that are out right now, and there's ad fatigue, right? So people are seeing so many different ads. How do you actually stand out? And the way that brands are tapping into consumers right now is through influencers. So according to Forbes, 87% of consumers listen to influencers now before making a purchase. But I think even more before making the purchase, it's actually just getting you to be aware of the specific product. But more importantly, next slide, Kazi, is the impact of everyday people. And so people trust their peers more than celebrities, sponsored ads, and traditional ads. So according to Adweek, user-generated content is 50% more trustworthy and 35% more memorable than any other form of paid media. So for those who don't know, user-generated content is people, typing in reviews, people creating content that are brand related, and so on. But why is small so powerful? Yeah, next. So here's a influencer tiers and engagement rate. And essentially, I'm going to share with you a little bit more about influencers and how influencers are segmented into various tiers. So they're segmented by their following, right? So if you look at the bottom of this table, this line graph here, you'd see mega influencers. You'd see Justin Bieber on the left, so somebody with more than 1 million followers. And if you look far on the right, you'd see a nano influencer. And essentially, a nano influencer is somebody like you and I, somebody, the average Joe, the average consumer. And this lady over here, you don't actually know her, but she actually has a much higher engagement rate. So engagement rate is essentially the percentage of people that are engaging divided by the total number of followers that you have. So because Justin Bieber has such a large following, there's a huge disconnect. A lot of people don't know him personally and therefore don't trust him. Whereas this lady on the right, she is a classmate, she is a friend, she is a daughter, she is a sister, and therefore she has a high level of influence. So essentially, a nano influencer, somebody on the right, is scoring so much better in terms of engagement rates. So Justin Bieber does 1.97%, whereas the average Joe globally does 5.6%. And this is due to trust, relevance in content, and authenticity. So for that reason, particularly, nano influencer marketing is on the rise. However, there's so many challenges in nano influencer marketing. And I'm going to show you some more on the next slide, please. And so essentially with nano influencer marketing, for it to actually work in effect, right? So let's say you're a brand, you have a budget, let's say it's 50,000 baht, and that would get you a micro influencer, maybe a few micro influencers, maybe a mid-tier influencers. But if you were to hire nano influencers, we're looking at such a large volume of people. And so the challenges that come with this are, how do we find the relevant people for this specific campaign? How do we communicate with them what they're supposed to do? How do we manage everything so that it's done in the way that the brand would like? How do we curate all these content, make sure that we're giving them enough feedback loops to make sure that the content is the right way? How do we track performance, right? So with one person, it's quite easy to track these results. But if we have so many people part of a campaign, how do we actually track all of this? And last but not least, payment. So micropayments is a huge challenge for several brands and also agencies because they don't have the micropayment infrastructure to schedule 100, 200, 300 payments. And so for this reason, nano influencer marketing is extremely tedious and time consuming. Next slide, please. And so for this reason, we decided to build the Brand Face platform. So Thailand's first peer-to-peer marketing platform driven by advanced technologies. So we've decided that we wanted to solve all those problems and make it very easy for brand managers, PR managers, business owners, and various digital agencies to launch campaigns through our platform.
Because of my lack of money. It's our lack. Look, if you need to work as a low-paid intern for a magazine or a stringer for a small-town newspaper or Tom Brokaw's toupee comber wrap.
Amy, I think you're not muted.
Yeah, so can we ask all
Sorry, no more girls.
No worries. So can we ask everybody to just please mute your microphones, please? Thank you very much. Actually, no Amy's. Hi, Amy.
Hey.
So essentially marketers can launch campaigns directly through our website, and nano influencers can simply join campaigns via mobile. We're trying to make it extremely easy. And for those who are interested, we're also very happy to share how to use this system. So next slide, please. So an example of this in action, right? We worked with this company called GoWabi. Some of you may know them. They essentially provide deals, booking, like a booking platform with deals for like salons, nail spas, etc. And they were launching a campaign for their 12/12. And so at this campaign, they were shooting Facebook ads as well, you know, with this flyer you see here, but they also wanted to tap into influencer marketing. So through BrandFace, they worked with 100 of our influencers. And this is an example of 3 influencer posts. So as you can see, everybody's holding the app, right? That's the GoWabi app. And if you look around, everybody's got this frame, and this frame has all the campaign mechanics that were strategized by the campaign creator. And so you'll see here that it says, yeah, GoWabi, in Thai it says, which means starts at 12 baht, and that was their big promotion. We have a call to action, shop now. We have another call to action, which says link in bio. And how that works is our influencers all posted this image onto their Instagram pages, and they had the GoWabi website link in their bio. So if their audience, their friend, clicked into that link, they would go directly to their e-commerce page and they would be able to purchase deals. So what we did was actually we got all these influencers to use these frames because we wanted multiple touch points for this specific campaign. So if the general consumer saw a friend post this with this border, it's something that is, you know, quite effective. And if they saw it again later on Facebook, that would be something that they'd be like, hey, I remember Pang, you know, and using the same colors. And that's something that now resonates with me a little bit more. And then I go back on Instagram and then I see Prow with the same border. And then now I'm interested. So this is how brands are tapping into our system. On this side, you'll see the campaign metrics that were created for GoWabi. So this is actually a direct, a direct frame, I'd say, or a slide from our campaign report. So, you know, this would give you an overview of the overall metrics. So for this campaign, we actually generated over 20,000 views and 10,000 plus engagements in about 48 hours. So most of the impact actually happens within 48 hours. I'd say the majority of it in the first 24. So you'd see here that the average engagement rate across 100 influencers was 5.74%. So that's actually a bit higher than the global average. And some of our campaigns are a little bit lower and some of our campaigns are a lot higher. But I think this campaign clearly depicts, you know, the power of nano influencers and why small is powerful. So actually for this campaign as well, it had 3% higher than the typical mega influencer campaigns and over 3% higher engagement rates than Facebook as well. And through these posts, 482 leads were generated, right? So these friends clicked into their website and were interested in purchasing a coupon. Okay, next slide, please. So BrandFace provides end-to-end solutions for marketers through a self-serve platform. So from targeting, campaign management, you know, influencers, quality assurance. So, you know, making sure that the posts are of high quality, analytics and reporting. So brands would and agencies would be receiving a report at the end of each campaign, and micropayment management, which is a huge headache. And that's solved by us. So that's something that does not need to be worried about. So the next slide would show some campaigns in action, and you'd see several different industries that have been tapping into our peer-to-peer network. So we worked with British College by Sri Patum University. We work with Mikkel Plus that offers supplements, calcium. And we work with Seekster, which is a startup in the cleaning space, and then now they're moving to the gig economy. And then we have High Calcium, which is a food brand. And you'll see that a lot of these campaigns would actually involve graphics or AR filters. And we try to make our content as interactive as possible to stand out and actually drive more curiosity in the consumers. And the best part is now that through our platform, Gen Z and Gen Y are able to earn through publishing branded content onto social media. So the next slide will show some of the brands that have already started working with us and are leveraging our platform to create this level of impact. So you'd see that Lock and Lock is in the consumer space, The Clinic is in the beauty space, Flash Express, logistics, Decathlon we just started working with. We're launching a campaign with them in a few days, and GoWabi, the beauty app, Seekster, T2 Max, British College, Ramen, and Mikkel Plus. But the best part is that, you know, through our campaigns, we're able to generate a high volume of social impact. So we create new income streams for over 1,000 18 to 26-year-olds already in Thailand in the 10 months since we've been launched. And, you know, we do aim to provide more opportunities, and our goal is to achieve millions of jobs paid out over the next 5 years. So for brand managers and agencies that are interested, feel free to schedule a demo with us to learn how to launch campaigns directly from our website. I don't think we have time to go through that today, but I'm very happy to do that on another session. That might take about 20 minutes. This is super relevant for marketers, digital agencies, brand managers, and media planners. This would allow you to learn how to create influencer briefs, schedule campaigns, choose your influencers and target them, upload media assets like the frame that I showed earlier on, launch campaigns directly, receive reports, and so much more. So thank you very much for your time today. And you'll be hearing a bit more from me later during the panel and the Q&A session. Feel free to reach out to me for partnerships. We're currently hiring at the moment as well, or for a demo. So thanks a lot for your time. It's been great presenting to you all and sharing more about nano influencers and BrandFace. Thank you.
Thank you, Pinaki, for your presentation. That was very informative. Now we will be seeing a presentation from Patari. But before we get into that, I would just like to remind our viewers that if you have any questions, please leave that in the comments in the chat section, and we will get to it towards the end during our question and answer segment. So just a little background on Mrs. Patari. She's the Managing Director of Brand Now Asia, a brand communication agency that has been operating for over 13 years. She has been working as an international marketing and communications professional for years, delivering winning solutions to some of the world's most disruptive and influential brands. Today, she will be speaking to us on some of the best practices when engaging in influencer marketing.
Enter to Bluetooth. Bluetooth connected.
All right, you're up now.
Hi there, sorry. I had switched the screen and then I was trying to find my way back. Thank you, Kazi, for that introduction. So I'm now going, can you guys see my screen okay? Yeah, all good?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, excellent, great. So since Pinaki went through, the whole process of how to work with nano influencers and stuff, we wanted to bring to the table on some of the best practices that we've come across for the planning process for this season. Other agencies that are here or those who are marketing veterans, you'll find the process are very similar because, as they say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, or vice versa, something like this. Okay, so let me take you through. First things first, yeah? So what we want to do is define the objectives, make sure the creatives is there, have a call to action. I've had situations where a brand had already worked with a influencer, but afterwards there wasn't a call to action and they were not able to monitor and measure, and wanted to find a way, that they could do a recourse on that because the action had already taken place. So just want to reiterate that it's good to plan the process when we first start out, right? So the first thing is going to be define the objectives. So defining the objectives, we want to have a clear target. What do we want to do with this campaign? Is it just a general brand awareness? Is it a sales promotion like what you saw Pinaki presented for Go Wabi for 12/12? Or is it all of it? And if that be the case, then, is it only the influencer marketing, or what is, all in the marketing mix that we want to pull in, and what is the budget that can be allocated? We want to clarify the direction, the strategy, the execution, and of course, later on, when we lay the groundwork properly, then we're able to measure like some of the numbers that you saw already with BrandFace. I think when we work with brands, we notice like, you know, on the other side, there's the CMO, the MD or the CEO. There are different priorities, or even the sales director. So we gotta set all of those together, and then we have a platform to launch, right? And then also, what is the right channel? I think with brand face, it's nano influencers. These are very young people. So I have children who are in their teens, and they think, you know, the in thing is all about Instagram and TikTok, and because mommy's on Facebook, I'm what they call a boomer. And I try to explain to them that boomers are actually your grandparents, but they lump us in all together. The next thing is to be creative. Pinaki mentioned already that it's a noisy world, right? So from the time we pick up our phone to start using it, to, you know, just getting on the BTS or the MRT, we want to work with the influencer, be it Nano or the micros, to make these ads attractive. You know, we want to make them resonate with your brand. We want it to be aesthetic and authentic, and have that content be relatable. If you're working with a nano influencer who are a bit more fun and cool, and they want to hang out and stuff like that, the aesthetics or the language shouldn't be so formal. It should be a little bit more laid back. And also, you want to have a right balance between, you know, information and presentation. And for some brands, they like things that are more animated. And maybe later, Pinaki will show the thing with the AR bowl that he did. I think is kind of cute. So it's a bit more interactive when people see that. Next, we want to have a call to action. So, you know, what is that call to action going to be? Is it going to be a loyalty program where you're going to ask your current members to bring in new members, or just a general awareness because you want the market to know that this is a new added product to your line of products and services, or you want to do acquisition like some of the brands that Pinaki presented earlier, and have a definitive message that directs them towards to do something, you know, like take advantage of this deal now between this time to this time, so that when you go to measure, you can actually see that action taking place. Okay, monitor and measure performance. So as we've already seen, many of the marketers, you know, there's so many softwares out now, not just the ones that are currently on the platform from the influencer agency, but also within your own platform, you can also measure. But I think it's good to have like alignment and agreement on, you know, what is going to be the best result? What are we trying to achieve here? So that afterwards, you can go back and have a look. Sometime there's going to be A/B testings as well. And then you can test, you know, okay, this group of influencer versus this group of influencer, which one did better for you? So this is some of the things that we want to share with you in relations to how to, you know, lay the groundworks for setting up a campaign. And if you need help with that, feel free to give us a call. You can drop us an email. There's a WhatsApp button on our website, and this is our email page. So that's it for me. And I think Kunkazi is going to take us to the next part of this session.
Well, thank you so much for your presentation. That definitely covered some of the key practices that we should all maintain when working with influencers for our campaigns. At this time, the floor is still open to all our viewers for questions. And in the meantime, I do have some questions for the panelists, which I will take the opportunity to address. My first question would actually be to both of our panelists today to get their insights on what they think would be some of the next unexplored or next big thing in social media influence space. So I would request Pashari to address this question first, if she would.
Ooh, the next big thing. well, of course, I got two teenagers, and the thing that we have seen is that's been coming on really strong the last probably 5 or 6 months that my kids are using a lot is the TikTok. And it's fun, it's engaging. They're advertising all over Facebook and YouTube. Who knows? Who knows who else is going to bring in a new platform for us to use? Or maybe there's going to be another one that kind of like is combo of all of them. I find marketing and communication a very interesting profession. There's always new things to look forward to and do, to learn. It's been a wonderful process, I think, in the last 12 months with the whole work from home, and now everybody's glued to their phones or their laptops, and one of the things that I think we had before in the discussion, one of the things that we see that's shifting is the out of home is starting to go away more and more, the traditional billboards and stuff like that. Hi, Bob. So how about you, Pinaki? What do you think? What's the next thing?
Yeah, I'd like to think that a lot of people are moving towards peer-to-peer. So I think the current thing right now and the very near term next thing would be nano influencers and peer-to-peer. I think there's still a huge adoption that's yet to happen. I feel like a lot of the marketers and agencies here are still very comfortable with working with nano micros or mega. I feel like the adoption from billboards to digital has kind of moved quite fast, and I think that was the help of COVID, right? A lot of people were moving to where the traffic was, and that was online. But I think moving forward, there's going to be a lot more of, I think, social commerce, people selling, affiliate, marketing, but through social channels, live streaming, and so on. So I think it's moving there.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of that. There's like the social commerce, and then there's the bidding, right? I've gone into the weekend market where I saw there's a lady, and she's literally just shouting into her mobile phone. And I asked one of the assistants in the shop, what is he doing? He says, oh, they're doing a bidding. And she's just using Facebook Live to do the bidding. So because they wanted to get rid of some of the stuff out of their shop to make space for new products that were coming in.
Right. And I think even like if you look at the very I'd say like traditional businesses that you wouldn't imagine, like somebody was selling crab from live streaming, and they sold a lot of crabs. And this was, somebody that would just be not typically marketing online, not typically running ads, but leveraging social media to drive those conversions. So that's, extremely creative, but I think a lot of brands right now, big or small, if they're not looking into the online space, then something is definitely wrong.
That's true. And yeah, with Instagram and TikTok, these two, you can often see that there are cross postings between these two platforms as well. And so far, these two have been the most accessible as well as widely used for influencers to promote products or services or do their endorsements or share their content. And in terms of the nano influencer space, I think it's going to be even more effective because there's a lot of research that is showing that nano influencers are better able to relate or convey certain endorsements or messages to their followers more than your macro, or mega influencers are able to. Because when you're trying to buy a product, you would it's more likely that you take advice from someone who's used it and someone who's related to you or close to you in your social circle. So we actually have our first question from one of our viewers. Mr. William has asked, do influencers choose which brands to support as it may conflict with their own personal brand? Also, how much can they earn and how is it calculated? So Pinaki, would you like to take that question?
Yeah, sure. So I think with influencer marketing, and they're divided into so many different tiers, and you'd see that the bigger influencers, the macro influencers, micro, mid tiers, and mega celebrities, they would all be embodying something, whether it's fitness, whether it's gender equality, whether it's wildlife protection, and you can see it's quite clear on their profiles, and it's kind of the track that they're focusing on. Whereas with nano influencers, you would see that most of the people are just regular people. So, like for me and my Instagram, I'm not really advocating for anything so much. I'm just kind of posting things that happen in my life, right? So whether it's like my Halloween costume, or whether I'm traveling, or whether I'm at, giving a talk somewhere, it's just kind of my life. And I think that's quite similar for a lot of the nano influencers, where they're just regular people that are not essentially pushing anything so much on social media. And most of them don't even know that they could make money through our channels. And I think most of our influencers that we bring on board weren't influencers before. We're just picking them out of university and saying, hey, you can now monetize your social channels. So to come back to, your question on price, I think with influencers that are, much bigger, ambassadors and spokespersons, etc., that would typically be around 10% of their total following. And it would really range. Sometimes, they would have their request of how much money they want. And it's very case to case, depending on their level of influence as well. But with nano influencers, it's typically, a fixed rate, and they could get paid on our platform, I'd say between like $10 to $20. So like between 150, 250 baht. So the campaign with Decathlon, it really ranges. It depends, sometimes it goes up to 600 baht, 800 baht, depending on their tasks. But they would not really demand, their rates. And the way that it works on BrandFace is that we would push out a campaign brief. So let's say we work with a brand or an agency to launch a campaign. And then we would put this brief out to influencers saying, hey, there's this campaign that you can join. Here are the details. This is the payout. And they have the choice to apply to whether they join or not. So it's quite different. Whereas with, mega influencers, the approach is more like a marketplace. So you would pick the ones that you'd want, and you would look at the data to make that decision.
From our experience in terms of brand conflict, yes, because the thing that comes up is about brand safety, and it's usually not in the nano level, but when you start to get into the micro, macro, megas, you want to have a look at has this person already represented, a competitor, number one. Number two, if you're looking for, let's say, a family valued husband and wife team, but then later you find out this person has had a scandal, has had a mistress, so it becomes a brand safety issue sometime. So beyond the nano, you want to research and make sure that this is good for your brand to use, and what is going to be your relationship working with them. Is it just for that short promotional period? Let's say you're having a promo from November to December for the holiday sales, or is it a long-term, 6 months, or a year, they become more like a brand ambassador? In our experience, when we've worked with micro influencers, their level in terms of payment, it really depends. It starts anywhere around 50,000 to 200,000. It depends on if they're on their way up or on their way down. When I say that, I mean do they have a current project that's hot, or did they just release an album, or they're in a hot TV series or something like that. One time we had discovered the client had given us a brief to say, hey, get us somebody who's got X millions of followers. And when we looked at their followership and looked at their engagement, actually they had a lot of followers, yes, but their engagement was low because they hadn't done anything in terms of a project or a launch or a new show or a new product or a song over 2 years. So their engagement was quite low. But then compared to somebody who had a hit TV series, didn't work very much on their Instagram or their TikTok account, so their followers were still actually low, but their engagement was really high. So you have to kind of, weigh that out, how do you want to play it, or you want to do a test with them.
All right, I hope that answers Mr. Williams' question. We have another question from Pauline. It goes, how does the algorithm in Facebook and Instagram affect the reach of influencers? I think, Pinaki, would you like to take that first?
Yeah, sure. So this is actually my favorite part. So thanks a lot, Pauline, for asking this question. So if you look at Facebook and Instagram in general, Mark Zuckerberg's whole philosophy is about bringing friends and family together. So what does that mean? That means that businesses have to pay. Very simple. And you have to pay through running ads. Otherwise, your posts aren't getting any reach. So actually, I'm a page owner of quite a few pages. And one of my first pages that I created maybe about 10 years ago, we got such a high level of reach from, posting from our business pages. And today, even a page with more followers would not reach anybody. And you'd wait an hour and two, and then you might reach 10 people. And it's quite crappy, I'd say. And with influencer marketing, it solves that problem as well. Because people generally, when they post on Facebook, their posts get much more visibility. And that's how the algorithms work. And so we cracked that by saying, hey, let's get 100 people to post instead of running a Facebook ad. And that's the whole premise, really. It's like, how do we get more visibility? How do we crack the algorithms? How do we get more people to see a product, learn about a product, and potentially buy the product? And we found that through influencer marketing, not only are we, beating the algorithms, we're also able to deliver things that you don't get through a sponsored ad, like trust, your friend in the ad, customization, personalization, hyper targeting, etc. So, yeah, I think influencer marketing does solve that issue, and I think that the algorithms favor people on Facebook, not businesses.
Yeah, I second that. I'm a micro influencer. I own a group called the Bangkok Business Connections. And I think 2 to 5 times a week, I have somebody asking, I think every day we have up to about 10 people asking to join the group. It's not a page, it's a community group. And then I end up, they spam me and then I have to block them, unfortunately. But yeah, because I think they want the exposure to the 16,000 because it's more eyeballs looking at it. But then, to keep the page clean, otherwise I'm full of spam. Nobody wants to stay in the group. They start to leave you. So I have to take them out.
Well, it's good to see the social media algorithms are supporting the influencer marketing space, which does make it more attractive for businesses. At this point, I have another question, and this one is for Pashari. When I'm working on my marketing plan, when and how do I decide if an influencer marketing strategy is relevant?
I think, well, when we work with a client, it's a collaboration. I see this process as a partner, as a partnership. We've been very grateful for many of the well-known brands that we've worked with. Sometimes we have to test if they haven't done the research themselves or have any data that kind of backs up and gives us some insight into what's who is consuming their products or services. If that doesn't exist, then we can either look at doing a focus group or online survey to determine, or if that's not possible because we really need to hit the ground running, then we can do A/B testing, and that can be done fairly easily, through various segmentations inside some of the social medias already. How about you, Pinaki? Are you able to segment, and then do tests? Have you guys already done that part as well? Because this is the agency side from a brand communication marketing point of view. This is how we would approach it. It's like, get some insights. If we have no insights, then let's go find it, or we test it before we actually put a lot of money down, because otherwise we could be wasting a lot of money.
Right. So I think on our side, a lot of the creative, the strategy, the segmenting, it comes from the client side. So that's typically either the brand or an agency like yourself. And on our side, we do provide advice from time to time. All the time, really, right now, because we're still working very, very closely with our clients. And while we're transitioning to our self-serve platform, a lot of it is still manual. So we do get quite involved in the conversations. But I'd say that working with a strong creative agency like yourself to devise that strategy would be best practices.
Okay, thank you for your answers. We have another question from one of our viewers, Michelle. Uh, the question goes, as a service provider, your target market is small to medium businesses, to medium business owners. Given that the influencers are usually young and Gen Z, is it still smart for us to seriously look into influencer marketing?
If I may, take that.
Sure.
I think if you're looking at small, medium business owners, unless the Gen Z themselves are, are a reflection of that, they're also, an SME themselves. Otherwise, you want to look at what I separate what I call influencers versus KOL. KOL, for the other people who may not have come across this term, is key opinion leader. So a key opinion leader to me is an influencer, but I separate the terminology because they tend to be more of an expert in another field as opposed to just a popular person, i.e. a Kim Kardashian, if you will. Because to me, the Kim Kardashian, she's famous for famous, but you have a KOL who could be, a food expert, somebody like, sorry, this may date me a little bit, like mukbang, the you remember he's like the guy who likes to go around and taste, and then he would put up the signs and all this other stuff. But there are others. I think there's a Thai American guy. His name is Mark Wayne. He's quite the foodie, and he's got quite the YouTube channel. So he's more like not just an influencer, because he's got a big network, but he's an influencer because he talks about eating great food. And I think if you're targeting like something specific, like business owners will listen to other business owners who maybe had made their mark in the marketplace, and then as a result they're admired for that, or because of their resilience or know-how. I would urge you towards an area of a KOL. How about you, Pinaki? Do you have a different take?
Yeah, I think it's really case to case depending on the industry and the type of business that we're dealing with. So for just back to the question on as a service provider, our target market is small business owners. Given that influencers are usually young and Gen Z, is it still smart for us to seriously look into influencer marketing? We'd see that like with one of our clients that we've worked with, it was quite unique actually, because a lot of our customers are in B2C, and so one of our clients actually. You might know them, they're called Flash Express. So they're like a logistics company, and their target is actually small and business owners. And so as part of their strategies, they were getting Mac-has, right, or like mom and pop sellers on Facebook to actually share about their promotions. And we worked with them to get 250 people and to share content for them. So actually with their strategy, I think they had a total of 500 people total. 250 were just nanos, right? So anybody, and 250 people were mom and pop sellers to drive their campaigns forward. So yeah, I think to answer your question, it's really case to case, depends on the type of business. But I think the rule of thumb is like, just go where your customers are, right? So if they're on Facebook, find a way to get them. If they're on Instagram, try to get there. If they're not online, then don't bother.
All right.
If they're not online, maybe you got to do out of home.
Door-to-door marketing.
Right. Somebody just told me the other day that they got an ad on, going up the MRT for less than 10,000 baht. Like just a big banner. So yeah, if you go up the escalator of the MRT. So out of home, the prices are really coming down.
Okay. At this moment, I do have a question for Pinaki. In a result-oriented world that we live in, how would I evaluate and measure the ROI of engaging in influencer marketing? Also, when you're doing influencer marketing campaigns, can you actually project the potential conversions or the reach of the campaign for the client?
Yeah. So I think projection is one of the most beautiful things with influencer marketing. So a little bit more about what I was doing before. I ran a video company since 2014, and we worked with a lot of brands and agencies to create video content. And a lot of like that kind of evolved from, creating high quality content to actually creating content that drove impact. And that means what? So somebody sees something and wants to share it, right? So how do you create this form of virality? And we actually found that a lot of companies were selling viral videos that didn't go viral. And that was a huge issue for me. And also, I think that's why we took many steps back and thought of how we could launch something like BrandFace that would solve that problem. But with influencer marketing, the beauty is targeting. Their interests, their persona, what they care about, and how many followers they have. And for those reasons, you can kind of project what kind of engagement metrics you'd receive, how many people would actually see it. And if you've done enough campaigns, you would know what's the possible leads that could be generated from a campaign like this as well. So yeah, I think to answer your question, you can project how many, what kind of metrics you get. But I think ultimately, when it comes down to sales, it's very hard to guarantee, because I think it depends on the nature of the product as well, right? If you're selling a product that is, very expensive, doesn't bring value to the customer, you could invest, so much dollars into influencer marketing and Facebook ads and possibly not even receive anything back. So yeah, I think if your product's good, you should definitely look into how you can tap influencer marketing and you can, receive projections through BrandFace and also through an agency like BrandNow.
Okay. Once again, thank you for your answer. That was definitely provided more direction for me at least. The next question that I would like to ask can actually go to both the panelists, and it is something that when I'm reading about influencer marketing or talking to influencers or agencies, one aspect comes up a lot is the involvement of influencers in the creative direction or the creative process. How much autonomy is given to them or is not given to them, and what are some pros and cons of having a strict versus a flexible brief for the influencers? Pashari, would you like to take that first?
Sure. I think when we work with I'm not because I think nanos are a little bit different, because they're more like just getting the brief. The brief is created with a creative agency, and then they work together with the influencer agency. When we work with micros and up, it really depends on, as I stated before, is this a short-term or a long-term relationship that we're going to have, right? Is it a short promotion? I'm of two-minded, because I tend to think that, some influencers, because they have been working for a period of time already, they'll come back and really surprise you on what they can do, because they know their audience better and they've been working with them, and maybe just on their own they're measuring like, okay, when I did this campaign with so and so, I have this kind of return or engagement, and then when I did like this, I didn't get it so much. So when we create, I think that dialogue, that conversation with the influencer, and again, I want to state that this is above the nano level. I think you can be surprised on the input of the influencer. But now, if you start to go to the level of like a Fortune 500 company, like when we worked on the launch of PepsiCo Sunbite with Fiber, the brief is a lot tighter. It's a lot more strict, because you're looking at a 5-6 agency coming together with A-list celebrities. So each creative, each brief, or each celebrity or mega at that point that the people were working with was tailored specifically to each. So it wasn't a one size fit all. I think this is a conversation that needs to be had, going back to how do we want to plan, how do we want to strategize, how do we want to measure, what do we want to see come back? Do we want to give the influencer the opportunity to also surprise us, or have that conversation one-on-one just to get their input? I've been on some webinars, not just in Thailand, but in the region as well as in Europe and North America. And one of the things that they're advocating is especially for larger audiences, is to take the input of, the micro, the macro, and the mega, because they tend to know. I think maybe micro and macro, they tend to know because they'll measure. I don't know if the team of somebody like Justin Bieber, which Pinaki talked about earlier, if they're actually measuring the stuff, whereas they're more, I could be wrong. I haven't met the team of Justin Bieber yet. So that, they're actually measuring his metrics and be able to give you that feedback in more detail. On to you, Pinaki.
Yeah, so I think I do agree with you that it makes a lot of sense to get their feedback and their input, because they do know their audience the most. And if you have something that's quite important that you want to share from a brand perspective, there might be a certain angle that they would recommend, and sometimes that's extremely valuable. But for us with nano influencers, it's quite different, and primarily because of the sheer volume of people that are involved in campaigns. So you're looking at 50 people to 100 to 200 people. It's quite tough to actually get the feedback from everybody. In fact, brand managers and agencies don't want to deal with that at all. They just want to kind of create their briefs and launch the campaign. So in our experience, we've seen two primary different types of briefs. And one is where it's quite flexible, where the influencer, where they say, hey, you know what, you can promote our product, but use our hashtag. And as long as you mention one of these three selling points, that's okay, and you can say it in your own words. And then the other scenario where a brand manager and agency would say, here's the script and you must follow it word for word. And so I think the trade-off is authenticity, right? So on one scenario where they are flexible to do what they want, right, the content tends to become more authentic, where people are like, oh, that is somebody that would start a conversation like that. That's how my friend would usually talk. And therefore it becomes a bit more convincing. But what you lose is the control of the things that are being said, which sometimes could be a risk to the brand. And then you have the other scenario where you have full control. You say, say this word for word. And the trade-off is the authenticity, where somebody viewing it would be like, hey, that's not how, Kunpachari talks. That's not how, Kazi talks. That's not, trustworthy. And so, yeah, I mean, it's debatable. I think we leave that decision to the brand manager and the creative agency.
Right. I think the key thing to remember is the authentic way of delivering the message of the communication. Anyways, that is all the time we have for today. At this time, I would like to thank both our speakers for their presentations and taking the time out of their busy schedules to join us for this webinar. And thank you to all of those who attended. And thank you for being a part of this webinar. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Goodbye. Just one thing before we leave, if you would like to access any of the slides, please contact the speakers via LinkedIn, and I'm sure they will be happy to help you out with sharing the slides with you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Take care, guys.
Have a great day, everybody.